Hello class, my name is Deb Zurcher. I am your CIS 105 instructor, and I created just a quick simple video to walk you through a couple of key elements to hopefully help you get off on the right foot in CIS 105. I know that so far you have submitted lesson 2, which you created from scratch, and you also have taken some of the quizzes. So starting with lesson 5, we are beginning to work with Excel. And for your first lesson, first assignment in this lesson, you will be creating a file from scratch. But there will also be several other assignments that follow where you do need to modify an existing file. So one of the first things we're going to do with this video is show you where to get those files when you do need to start with something that's already existing. So the good news is then you're just manipulating the data. You're not actually creating from scratch, which is kind of nice, but you still need to know where to start from. The other thing we're going to do is practice using range names, how to create a range name, and then also how to use that in a formula. And we're going to use the VLOOKUP formula. And the reason that I've chosen to focus on creating range names and using the VLOOKUP formula is because both of those items are going to be required in your first assignment for lesson 5. So in this course, if you submit an assignment where you have not used formulas or you've missed a critical formula, basically leaving some of those out, that assignment will be returned with a score of a 0 and you will need to correct it. So it does need to be complete. For each assignment, you do need to submit all the files that are required together in one zipped folder. And you also need to make sure that you do follow the step-by-step directions, whether those are given to you in the text or in the lesson page. So oftentimes, we don't use range names a lot, depending on what your scope of experience is with Excel. And then also we'll be using the VLOOKUP command, which also is not a commonly used feature. And sometimes students tend to get a little bit just thrown off by having to use that. So hopefully with this video, we will take care of some of those. So enough rambling, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So what we're gonna do first of all is we are going to use an existing file. And what we're going to do is go to Lessons. And we're going to start with Course Intro. Hopefully you guys have had an opportunity to go through and look at your Course Intro lesson. And we are going to open that. And if you scroll down under Review Materials, Required Software and Data Files, you'll see that there are a couple of links here for downloading files. You can use the CD that came with your text, or I like to just go to these links and get the files that I need when I'm completing the assignment. So if I click on the Excel files, which is what we're going to work with today, it's going to take me to the Pearson Learning site, and I am going to go to Student Data Files under Student Materials. And today we are going to start with a file here in Excel Chapter 2. So when you are in the textbook, if you have one of the first steps, it would always be the first step, A, telling you to open a specific file, you'll have kind of a little key there. So for example, if I want a file from Excel Chapter 2, that file name is going to start with EO2. If I want a file from Chapter 3 in Excel, it's going to be EO3. And so on and so forth. So we're going to start with Chapter 2, and we're just going to click here. And it's going to download, it's going to open up a zip file with all of the different data files in it. So it may take a few minutes to load, depending on whether you've gone here before or not. And I'm going to just double click. And I use the Windows version, so I'm going to open up that file. And for this example, we are going to use EO2 H1 loans. So this is the example that we are going to start with. So I would double click on here. And it's going to open up that existing file. So what we need to do first of all is we need to make the file our own and save it save it on our computer so that we can manipulate it. So to do that, we enable editing, and I'm going to do a file save as. My recommendation is that before you get started too far into the class, that you create a folder for each one of your lessons ahead of time. So, there's 11 lessons. You can go in and just create a folder so that you have it already on your computer and you have a place to save each one too. That just helps you organizing. So I'm going to save to I've created a folder on my desktop called Deb CIS files, and for the purpose of this is actually going into my tutorials video file that I've created. But you can see that I also have where I've gone in and done practice lessons for 5 and 6 and all my scoring stuff. So this one is going into tutorials, and your book is going to give you a naming convention. So every time you open up a file or you create one, it's going to tell you how to save that file. I'm going to go ahead and save this as I'm using EO2. So this is Excel Chapter 2. This is a hands-on assignment. 3, because I've played with this before. The file itself is loans, and then last name and first name. So that would be your own last name and first name. Just a note here, occasionally the textbook asks you to save a file a certain way, and then before you actually submit the file for grading, in the lesson page it may ask you to save it a different way, maybe with your MEID number. So make sure that you're checking both places and so that you are saving your file correctly. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to hit save. And now I see that the file is saved on my computer with my name, and I'm good to go. This file, this workbook, has 2 data sheets or 2 worksheets. We have details and we have payment info. I want to work in the payment info for this example, so I'm going to click on that data sheet, and now that becomes active. And like I said, there's 2 things we're going to do to keep this video simple. The first one is we are going to create a range for a set of data. A range name is basically a shortcut in Excel. So when I give a value, or I give a set of values a name, it's basically so that I can shortcut and just refer to that name later on in a formula. So think of it as just a shortcut. That's all I'm creating. I'm taking a set of data, I'm giving it a name so that when I want to use it in a formula, it makes it simple. So in this case, I want to create a range name for this set of data. So anything from D4 through E6, I want to kind of group it together, and it's one location, and when I use a name in a formula, I want it to be able to come here and look for this data. So I'm going to select D4 through E6. And basically what I want to do is I am going to create a name for that. So I'm going to go up here to my name box. This is my name box. And I'm going to say rates. So what that means is anytime I use the name rates, and it is case sensitive, that tells Excel to come and look between D4 and E6. So it says when I see rates in a formula, this is where I'm going to come to gather information. Okay, that's really all a range name is. It's a shortcut. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to use that range name in a formula. One of the formulas that you will be required to use for one of your assignments in this lesson is the VLOOKUP formula. So again, maybe something that a lot of you have not used in the future. But really the VLOOKUP formula is just that. It's saying go find a value. It's a value lookup. So basically what I'm trying to establish is I'm going to give you a value. I want you to go to a location, Excel, that I tell you. And I want you to find that value and return something. So whatever I tell it to return. Okay, so it's just a lookup formula. It's actually pretty simple. A couple different ways we can get there. I like to use, because it's easier, and it just helps me so that I don't forget. But I go to formulas, and this is a lookup formula. So I'm going to click on lookup, and these are all the lookup formulas that are existing, and I want to use this VLOOKUP. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is I need to decide where do I want the information returned to. I want, for this formula, I want to know what the appropriate annual percentage rate is given a set of years. So basically what I'm trying to accomplish with this formula is I'm going to tell Excel, I'm going to give you the value of years, and I want you to return back to me what the APR, what the appropriate APR is, depending on that value. And so that's what I'm doing. So I want it to return the value in APR in this column. So to do that, I make sure that I've selected that column. I'm going to go here for lookup because this is where I'm going to put my formula. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to use the VLOOKUP. And the cool thing about using it from the formulas drop down is it gives me everything that I need. It says this is what you need to give me in order to return the value. So it says, okay, well, what value am I looking up? Well, I want it to look up whatever value is in years. So again, I'm not going to type in 25 here because later on this value could change. And then this formula would be no good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, no, I want you to give me whatever value is in F9. Right now that happens to be 25, but later on I could change it and then my return value could be different. So you never hard code in the values. You always either give them a range name or you're going to give it the cell address. So it goes there. It tells me that the value currently is 25, but later on it could be something else. Here's where my range name is kind of cool. So the next thing is, okay, I'm going to look up the value 25, but where am I going to look that up? Well, I want it to go to the area that I titled rates. So when I type in rates, and remember it does have to be typed exactly as you created it, notice that over here it's going to give me, you know, it has the year 15 and then the rate that is aligned to that, 25 and the rate. So it automatically, when I give it the word rates, that range name, it knows where to go and it can find those values. And then the last piece is really important. It says, okay, well, once I've found the value of 25 and I go to this section called rates, once I found that, what do I want? What do I want to return? Which column? Well, in this specific area, I want the rate that's in column 2. So this is column 1, this is column 2. So I say, okay, give me whatever value is in column 2. And then I can check it, and I see that down here, for 25, I'm going to get a value of, 3.65%. So I say, okay. And that works. So instead of having to repeat that, now I can go here and I can get my little plus sign. Notice that when you toggle or when you hover over a cell, if you get the little solid plus like this and you hold down your mouse button and drag, it will copy down that formula. And voila, there we go. So now I have a VLOOKUP formula, and we can double check and see, but for each case, it's just replacing, it's using value F9 here, but it's always referring to that rates table and the second column to return this value. So that is our little video for today. Hopefully that helped a little bit with A, where to find your files, and B, how to use a couple of formulas that you will need to be successful in this lesson. So thank you very much, and good luck to you.